Elon Musk has been talking about robotaxis for nearly a decade, and now they're finally on the road. Tesla's first autonomous ride-hailing service launched June 22nd in Austin, and the early reactions were loud, fast, and mixed. The rollout included 10 to 12 Model Y cars, and rides cost $4.20 and were invite-only, mostly Tesla superfans. And for now, the service is not open to the public. Tesla geofenced the zone, cutting out airports and major highways. Cars run from 6 a.m. to midnight with a Tesla employee riding up front as a safety monitor. There's also a remote support team on standby. To hail a ride, users have access to a new Tesla Robotaxi app, which quietly launched the same weekend. It shows the coverage area and allows riders to request a pickup within a set boundary. Videos of those first rides flooded Elon Musk's platform X. The rollout drew praise from longtime Tesla bulls, though some critics pointed to safety concerns and the limited nature of the launch. Now, Dan Ives called the initial rollout a 10 out of 10, even saying it looked better than Waymo's service out of the gate. So what's next? Well, Dan Ives thinks Tesla could scale to 25 cities in the next year, potentially a big leap for a service that's still invite-only. And Elon Musk, well, he says millions of Teslas could be driving themselves by the second half of 2026. But that vision still comes with questions, like how well Tesla's camera-only tech actually performs, or when the public will be allowed to ride. Now, I talked to IBD's Kit Norton to break down what Tesla proved with that initial rollout and what still needs to happen for that robotaxi service to move beyond Austin. Thanks so much for joining, Kit.
Good to be here.
So did Tesla show the industry something new with this launch, maybe with its camera-only approach, or was it more just about getting something out into the real world?
I would say to that question, it depends on who you ask. You know, on the one hand, this limited release or launch of their robotaxi service was an important step for the company in terms of actually putting it out there, you know, allowing, even though it was a limited amount of riders, to actually be in the vehicles, even though they did have safety monitors, to experience, you know, quote unquote, supervised, unsupervised self-driving. So in that respect, yes, it was something new, especially if you look at also how, you know, Elon Musk and Tesla have really championed a different approach to autonomous driving than, say, Waymo and others, with the use of LiDAR and other sensors, where, you know, Tesla's gone just with cameras. So in that sense, yes, this is something new that Tesla has shown the industry. However, on the other hand, you know, the naysayers or folks who are more skeptical would say, listen, this basically is just what is already currently in their vehicles, which is supervised full self-driving software. And so from that perspective, no, it's not anything new. So again, it really comes down to your perspective on what exactly this launch was.
And how do you think the rollout is landing with investors, industry experts, and just the broader tech world? Is sentiment more optimistic, or are people leaning skeptical?
I would say, and this kind of bears out in the stock reaction on the day right after that launch, you know, it was met with quite a lot of fanfare from the stock market, from investors, and from a number of analysts in terms of, okay, Tesla has now finally, after years upon years of promising that this was coming, they've done it. However, you then also have on the flip side, throughout the week of trading, Tesla did give back those gains. And it's a bit hard to know, though, in terms of how much of that had to do with the rollout of Robotaxi and how much that had to do with Tesla's fundamentals, particularly coming into vehicle deliveries for the second quarter, which are expected to, again, be lower than maybe some would like. So it's hard to know exactly what that giving back of that big boost came from. But I would say overall, the consensus seems to be rather bullish, and that there's quite a bit of excitement about the launch and what it means. I mean, if you just look at in terms of how much robotaxi and autonomous driving is kind of baked into the valuation of Tesla, this is very much kind of what is driving both the stock price and also valuations kind of across the board for the company.
Yeah, so some excitement was there, but it's still tough to separate hype from what's priced in. And during that launch, one car braked suddenly, another was driving on the wrong side of the road. I mean, how do those incidents stack up against what other autonomous vehicle players like Waymo have faced during early rollouts?
There's a lot of similarities. I mean, with the kind of, any new tech, there will be hiccups. And this is kind of no different. I mean, folks were quick to point to that, Waymo also had safety monitors in the vehicles when they first rolled them out. Waymo also still has quirks, that they're dealing with. And in many ways, kind of the quirks of this technology are kind of almost baked in when you're rolling out this new type of tech, particularly one as complicated as autonomous driving. That's number one. And then number two, when you take in how Tesla is going about that with cameras, with artificial intelligence basically driving, it's bound not to be a smooth, seamless experience right off the bat. Now, moving forward, we'll see. But I would say, there's a lot of similarities in terms of how this has gone compared to other autonomous vehicles and how they're operating on the roads.
And Dan Ives predicts Tesla robotaxis could scale to 25 cities within a year. And Elon Musk said he expects millions of autonomous Teslas on the road by the second half of 2026. So based on what we saw in Austin, what actually needs to fall into place to get there, whether that's on the tech, consumer trust, or regulatory side?
I would say all of the above to what you just said. I mean, this is going to be a question, and this is really the main question, rollout. What is this going to look like now that they have launched? So if you look at from the regulation side, what cities, what regions, what states are going to allow this? On the federal side, there was a lot of optimism that with President Donald Trump in office, that might smooth out some of the regulatory framework for kind of nationwide autonomous driving. We've yet to see that. And then on the state by state level, hard to know. So that's a very, very big one. And then when you come to consumer trust, that's another big hurdle, and that's why, again, people have talked about, 99% is not good enough for safety, right? Folks have said it really does need to be 100% because the level of trust in a vehicle that is driving completely autonomously is higher than we would have for a human driver. So I would say that too is a massive part of the puzzle here for Tesla in terms of overcoming that for a widespread adoption. And then also just simply on the tech side, Musk and Tesla have, again, for many, many years said that full autonomous driving is 12 months away, a year away, etc. And I think this might have been one of the disappointments maybe with their rollout was that it did have someone in the front passenger seat. It did have a teleoperator who could take control. In some ways, it may have felt like this was not exactly what was expected or promised with some of the rhetoric that Musk has said coming up to that event. So that too, that's going to be a big question mark moving forward in terms of, again, building scale, rolling out these vehicles to different parts of the country.
So we've seen a lot of influencer content from that pilot, but no word yet on when this might open to the general public. Based on Tesla's pacing, do you think we're close to that next phase, or are we still firmly in this testing era?
This is hard to know. And this is one of these open questions that hopefully we'll get clarity in the coming weeks. On Austin's city site, it does show that Tesla is now a deployed, quote unquote, deployed self-driving taxi. Before they were, quote unquote, in the testing phase. So that is a positive there. There's also the fact that some of Tesla's techs or engineers have said, okay, we're taking in some of the feedback, some of the data from that initial rollout. We're working with the fleet, and then hopefully it will be scaled up and allow more people to come on it in the coming weeks. When it comes to a timeline for that, as of yet, it's still part of the unknown when it comes to this.
And Tesla also just pulled off its first driverless delivery, no remote operator and no one in the car. Do you see that as a breakthrough moment or more of a high stakes demo with limited real world impact right now?
This is, again, an excellent question. I hate to say this, but again, it comes down to who you ask. For folks who are very bullish on Tesla, they would say that this represents full autonomous self-driving, where you had a vehicle, according to Musk, drive from the factory without any driver to the customer's door for delivery. So if you look at it from the tech side, this would be quite an impressive feat. However, how many customers want this service? That's unknown, you know? And I think what this illustrates is, all right, so they've done this. Does that mean that this will be what the robotaxi will be? Does this mean that we're close, that Tesla is close to removing that safety monitor from the front passenger seat? So that I would say is the open question, or the takeaway from there is, they've done that. Obviously, they knew the route, right? Similar to how the rollout was in Austin, where it was geofenced. It was only in specific areas. It wasn't the whole city. This is going to be more like the proof is in the pudding. Can they take this or replicate it and then roll it out on a larger scale? That's the real question.
Yeah, doing it once is one thing, but scaling is the real test. And Tesla is going all in on vision-only autonomy, while its competitors Waymo and Zoox are using LiDAR and radar technologies. So did Tesla's rollout give us any new insight into how that bet is playing out in practice?
I think, again, at this phase, it's wait and see. Tesla is in the minority here. Musk and Tesla have really put all their eggs in one basket in terms of when it comes to their solution to autonomous driving is all in AI and cameras. No one else is doing that. They're kind of the only one. And to your question, in terms of, is this changing any minds? Is this making folks rethink? So you had Ford CEO come out and basically say that as of now, they were more comfortable with Waymo's approach with LiDAR. And so that, I think, speaks to this question. This was something that, many Tesla analysts and Tesla investors have been kind of banking on, that there would be other auto manufacturers who would be interested in licensing Tesla's autonomous driving tech. And here you have Ford's CEO, after the initial rollout of the Robotaxi, saying, you know what, at this point, we're more comfortable with Waymo's approach. So I think that kind of speaks volumes in terms of where the larger industry is thinking right now.
All right, we'll leave it there for now, but we'll be watching closely to see if and when Tesla does expand beyond Austin. Thanks so much, Kit.
My pleasure.
Now, whether it's 25 cities or just one, Tesla's next moves could reshape the robotaxi race. For Investors Business Daily, I'm Clara O'Connor.